to know how to make optimal use of typography, right? Typography is like the major thing when someone comes to a page, except it's like a picture gallery or an art gallery. The main thing they want to see is the information you want to pass, and one of the main the major ways of passing that information is through the use of text, right? So knowing how to use text or how to create text is not just it's not a want, right? It's actually a need. It's something that is very, very, very essential to what how you're going to convey your message. So we're going to be looking at typography. Now, we've definitely heard of typography. We've had, if you've not heard of typography, you've heard of fonts, right? You've definitely heard of fonts. If you've opened Figma, if you've opened Microsoft Word, if you've created a CV at any point in time, you've used fonts. Now, everything we're going to be looking at is how does fonts come into play in UI design? How do we make the most use out of our fonts? So what we're going to be covering this evening is just we're going to look at the use of we are going to look at some definition, some little theory part of fonts. Then we're going to okay. Then we're going to cover how to actually choose the right font, or rather how to create the right fonts. Then we're going to look a little bit into, I won't call it design system, let's call it style guide. We are creating a font for a style guide, then we'll put it all together. Hopefully there's time all together and wrap it into a creating a design and creating the fonts for it. Okay, so what is typography? We've heard of typography, but what exactly is typography? So typography, I all right. So typography basically has to do with how do we use type. So you hear something called type font. How do you use fonts? So typography is the optimal use of fonts. And why do we actually even need to know about typography? Why is it important to know what typography is? So like I said earlier, the major message you're passing across to your users, to your audience, is written. Except maybe you have like an art gallery, or but text conveys message. So 90% of design is typography. Forget before the whole CSS came into play, the whole web was actually typography, right? It was just, I'm coming to get an information, I'm coming to read something, and I'm just coming to search for something and get who I need and move out, right? So we have a feedback. All right. So the whole web initially was typography before we started styling, before we started adding images, before the use of multimedias, everything was text. Sometimes not even beautiful text. If you look at the Craigslist, just plain text that has a link. Now, another thing is typography is very critical to accessibility. Accessibility, in the sense of how will people actually see this? How do maybe someone that has low vision, that needs aid to see, how text has to do it? How legible will your message be? Let me just leave it like that. How legible will message be? Typography also sets the mood. So it can be what keeps your users or what takes your users away from your page. Because if I come to a page and the main information I'm coming to see is not legible, I don't need to stay. And sometimes you just you are visiting a page and something is turning you off that page, but you don't even know what it is. Sometimes it's just the font, it's just the typography, right? So typography is beyond just font. It's how are you communicating to these users? How do you please if you join, kind of mute your mic. So how are
Sorry,
you
sir, please, this class recorded.
yeah, it is. It is. So how are you communicating the message you want to pass across to the user? Right. So typography also helps with that communication. Okay. So good typography gives good user experience. The moment you come on a page and the typography or the let's call it the fonts. We're still going to get into definitions of all these terms. But let's say you come to a page and the font you can't even read it or it's not clear. It's going to already give you a bad experience. So no matter how beautiful the colors are, no matter how beautiful the buttons are, no matter how you paid attention into the corner radius and the shadows, if the font is bad, the user is going to have a bad experience. Now, does that mean the choice you use on your typography is going to matter a lot? Does it matter a lot? Now let's look at this. Now, when you look at this, what comes to your mind if if you if you got to your house and you saw on your door someone wrote this, you'll be mine. How do you feel? What do you think? What comes to your mind? Yeah, you will always be mine. You'll always be mine. How does it make you feel? All right. Zainab said the threat. You'll always be mine. Does this sound threatening? Okay. All right, now let's look at the second one. Let's look at this. What if it was this you saw? What what how do you feel? What difference does this two message or what difference do they same message? What emotion do they convey?
The second one is like a threat. Oh.
The second one is looking evil, right? Same
Yeah,
text.
like yes.
It's looking like someone is trying to possess you. And
Yes, like it's very frightening.
awesome. So the first one is calm, is feeling loved, right? Like okay, maybe someone is has a crush and just drop this for me, right? While the second one is more frightening because it looks like a threat. Now, same message, different fonts. Now, that's just to tell you that the 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 fonts you are using or the typeface or the typography, the use of typography actually has a whole lot to play in the message you are conveying, the type of message you are trying to convey. So if you are using, maybe you have like a law firm, you are designing for a law firm, and you are using this first line, this first font, it looks playful. It doesn't look serious. It doesn't look like you're actually serious, right? So the message you are trying to convey can be passed across with the use of your fonts. Now, these are some of the roles of typography in design. So we have it helps you to guide the user's attention. So you can use typography to guide what the user will see, where we go next, even beyond the communication. It guides where the user will see, what the user will see. Now, it also communicates tone and emotion. Just like the example I just showed you, typography can communicate the tone. Now let's even leave the example. Let's assume someone is is chatting you on WhatsApp. You're chatting with someone and the person just type in all caps and wrote, "Where are you?" What what emotion do you see there? What tone does that communicate? Or a person type in capital letter, "Who is this?"
Shouting.
How does it feels like the person is shouting on you, right? It feels like
Shouting.
it can also feel like a threat. It can also so the way you use typography basically has a lot to do with the tone the person is going to receive, right? Now, a playful will create a fun, casual feeling, right? Something like a sans serif, something like your poppins gives you a casual feeling. Now, imagine, I don't know if you've used Duolingo. If you've used Duolingo before, and Duolingo supposed to keep you relaxed so you're learning a new language, and in Duolingo they are now typing in caps, or they're using a Times New Roman. Now it's already going to turn the tone of the brand away, right? So typography helps to communicate tone and emotion. So another thing it helps us to do is improve readability and accessibility. The way you use your typography ensures that the content is actually legible across devices, across lighting condition. Now, typography usually have good contrast, spacing, sizes. We are going to look at that in a few while. All right. So I'm trying to move fast so we'll get to the interesting part. Okay, so it also strengthens your brand identity. So typography contributes to your product's visual personality. Know everything about your brand has to tie to the personality, the tone, the voice, the colors, even the choice of typography, right? For instance, Apple uses a font called SF Pro. It's called San Francisco Pro. That font is a sleek font, and it aligns with Apple minimalist brand. So if you go to Apple's website, you see their designs are minimalistic, not too much every ceremony, just minimal brand, right? So that helps also communicate and strengthen that brand identity. Now, typography is what language looks like. Imagine all what I'm saying. The fact that you can hear me and I'm not the fact that I'm communicating and you can understand. Now think about typography like that. Like it's actually also still trying to pass on a message. And since I can't hear it, I can see it. So what your language looks like. Imagine if someone is, I won't use the word speaking in tongues, but speaking gibberish and talking to you, you won't understand. Like so, imagine that's just how typography is in terms of design. The if your user can't see or understand where your flow is going to, it's going to cause a whole lot of distrust, a whole lot of disconnect with the brand. All right. So this is the anatomy of a type. Type is this text you're seeing, right? So you what we have here is called is a serif font. So you have a bar. So when you have something crossing the if you have a capital letter I that has the I that crosses it, that is the bar. We are going to come into serif. Now the counter is part of the circle part of an O of a C of a C, the C has an open counter, right? If you look at a C is just like an O that you slice one part. So that part that is called an open counter, right? So you have the stem. The stem is the base of that cross, right? Then you have a shoulder, say things that are crossing, um, like your R that you have here. Now there are some fonts, there are some text that has ascenders and descenders. Ascenders mean it is going up, right? Your H, your small letter J goes below the normal text. Your P, your small letter P goes below your Y, your G. So those are descenders. The ascenders are the H, um, which are that the T, right? Those are the ascenders. Then you have your X height. Your X height is the height of the small letter of, let's just use like an A, right? So the height of the A. Now it doesn't account for the height of the ascenders, right? So just the height of the, if it's an H, just the height of the shoulder, right? That's where your X height stops. Now there are some fonts that has a, now this is why you need to know this, right? There are some fonts that has that these ascenders are very short. Now, if you are choosing those type of fonts, you need to know that something like H would look like N if the person is zoomed out. If it's not well zoomed in, H will look like N, especially in words that can both go with H and N, say like hose or nose, right? H can look like N. So knowing all these things will help you choose the better font. Okay, so let's just cover a couple of definition in typography. Um, not all is covered here. We're just going to talk about it. So we have typeface. Now, typeface is exactly the what you call font, right? What we usually call font. It's very rare you say, oh, this typeface. So we usually call it fonts, but the word is typeface. So typeface is a family of fonts that share common design. Now I'm going to show you an example of what's the difference between typeface and a font. So a font is a specific style and weight within a typeface. Now let's just go to Figma, and I'm going to pull that out. Um, Give me a second. So there are some things that are not here. We have the line height, the paragraph spacing, the letter spacing. Um, what else? So the line height has to do with the space between a font on a line and the next font on the next line, right? Why paragraph spacing has to do with, if I'm creating a new paragraph, that means I press enter, how many space would be in between that first one and the second one. So that's the paragraph spacing. So let's look at fonts and typeface. Now, this is Figma. I believe we are all familiar with Figma. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Now let's do, now this is a, well, it can be a font and a typeface, but now how do you, what do we actually call typeface? So when I want to change this typeface, I'm saying all these different typefaces. So this is typeface. This is actually typeface. This is what a typeface is: the name, the family, right? The group. Because I can have different variation of a particular font. Now let's say Montserrat. Montserrat is a typeface. Now, what is now the font? Now, if I say Montserrat regular, maybe 12 pixel Montserrat regular becomes a font. So a font is a specific type in a typeface, like a specific style. I'm actually selecting just one style of it, and that becomes a font. Now, this Montserrat could also be in a bold, right? And it could be in a black. Right? Oh, I didn't take the bold. So it could be in bold, black, and it could also be, all of this would also be it in italics. All right. So this could be black italic, that this could be bold, and this could be regular. Okay. So what we have here are six different fonts. Six different fonts, but one typeface. They are all Montserrat. So typeface is the family that collects them together, right? Then you can have different fonts within the typeface, right? Then we have the font weight. The font weight has to do with the boldness, the weight, either the boldness or the thinness of the font you are choosing. That's why it's font weight. Okay. Then we have I've already explained line height and paragraph spacing. So when we see how they all come together, okay. Um, Finally, we have classification of types or typefaces, right? They are basically classified into two, sometimes three. We add script, but for designs, we rarely use script. For digital designs, you rarely use script, except you're trying to create like a signature or something. So we use majorly two classes of typefaces, and the first one is serif. So serif basically means line. Now this line that extends beyond this X, the U, the top of the U. I think it's also um on the anatomy. You can see it's serif. So the line, those lines that extend beyond it, they are basically called serifs, right? So that's stroke. So serif typefaces are, they usually have this decorative line at the end. So when an example of that would be Cormorant, um, Times New Roman, and a whole lot like that. Right. Now, some of the characteristics of serif fonts are they're most times not good for body text. So most times when you see a brand use serif, the body text is usually a sans serif, because sans serif has been proven to be more legible or more readable. Now, the next is just sans serif, and sans serif means without serif. That means the sans means there is no serif attached to it. So you have those fonts that are just plain, like what we have here. All right. So you have an example like Poppins, like Inter, Montserrat, the one I just showed you, um, Roboto, and the list goes on. Now, sometimes you are able to pair two fonts together. or two typefaces when you're creating a brand. Maybe a primary font or a primary typeface and a secondary typeface. And it's very important you understand how those typefaces tie to the brand and how they also affect the design itself. Um, so when you're using fonts, there are just some basic things, basic principles you need to look at, or when you're using typography. And the first is hierarchy. Now, hierarchy has to do with, this is the fundamental principle of typography, right? If your design has different information that has different importance, right? Different information has different importance. The hierarchy has to show what is more important and what is less important. For instance, if you're in a news website, maybe you're in a blog, and the overview of the blog you are saying, okay, let's take an example of one. Let's do punch. Now, from what we see here, you can see defection, PDP moves to flush loyal out disloyal members. Then you see politics. Now you can see this politics is smaller because it is in terms of hierarchy, it is low. It is low on the scale of hierarchy. So your font should be able to convey that message of what is important. Now assume all of these things has the same, they look the same. You would struggle between what is the heading and what is the category, right? So hierarchy basically deals with ensuring that the text, the importance of each text are conveyed accordingly, right? Now, consistency. This is very key in all part of design, right? Consistency is key, right? So just like every other design element, your spacing, your colors, your shadows, in typography also consistency should be applied throughout, right? So the same type of typefaces, the same font size, the same weight, the same style. So if I'm having 5 heading, one shouldn't be bold while the other one should be black. That's you're already breaking the principle of consistency. So if you're consistent, all your fonts, all your text should be the same throughout. Now, when I say the same, I don't mean all the fonts you're using one font or one style of typeface. What I mean is, if I'm having different headings, all those headings should not dissociate from the primary style. If I'm having body text, I shouldn't have a body text on this page that is light or thin, and on another page is different style, right? So that is basically consistency. So this also has to do with alignment, but we're still going to get to alignment anyway. Your consistency also has to do with the way you're aligning, the way you are using white space. Everything has to be consistent. Then the third thing is contrast. So contrast is basically, contrast is basically the difference between a background and a foreground. Now everything, your type is the easiest thing to lose contrast of, right? And we're going to see a website you can use to check your contrast. Then white space, you need enough space between individual words, between each line of text, and between paragraphs. Now what does that mean? Let's do a quick quick theory here, or practical rather. So let's say we have this text. Let's say we have this text. I'm just going to make it big and use Figma AI to fill the content box. Okay, so we have this. Now imagine we have something like this, and we have it this way. Now you can see how difficult it is to read. Right. So your white space has to do with the space both between different text, between the line of text. Okay, let me even take it a step. Now let's assume they are now like this. Now it becomes more difficult. So you need to ensure that wherever you are designing your your there is enough space. Basically, there is enough space for it to be readable. Okay. So we are going to get to all of this. Then finally alignment. So there are two types of alignment. So there is alignment within the text and there's alignment within the container. Now what do I mean? Let's assume let's just create a simple text box, right? Say we have an icon here and we have this. Let's use this as our heading. Let me make it black. So this is our heading. And let me copy a little bit of this. And this is our body. Make it black also. Now, now what I mean within itself. Now a text can be aligned within itself. Now this is center aligned. If I switch it to center aligned, so all the text are taking up the space in the middle, right? Now, if there is a gap left, it's usually on the left and on the right. So if I put it left aligned, if there is a space left, it's usually on the right of the text box. Then we now usually have the justified. So justified just creates a sort of a box to ensure that everything, all text are at the edge, right? So that is aligning within the text itself. Now, aligning within the container. Now, if a text is center aligned and you are aligning it to the left of the container, it's already defeating the alignment principle, right? Because so it's center aligned and you are aligning to the right, to the left or right. So you need to understand that some of this alignment has to go along with each other, right? So maybe it comes from practice, maybe it comes from just understanding how to use text. Now, if I want to align this text to the left of this page, I would have to also ensure that it is aligned this way so that we are not defeating, and this also would also like have to come here. So it gives it more a better arrangement or a better feel, right? So that's alignment. And I think that's it. What we would now look at now is using putting all of this together, right? So let's put all of it together into a design. Okay. So we're going to just create a simple, very simple blog. As a matter of fact, let me just create it first, then would impute the text. No. Let's work on it together. Okay. So like I said, choosing the right typeface is very important, and the consistency is also important. So most times we want to ensure that consistency. We create this text inside what we call a style, right? We create it inside a style, right? Now, I'm going to do a little mini design system. Okay, let's go this way. So let's have a text. I want to get a text, then we'll create a style on it. A quick brown fox jump about the lazy dog. Now we've brought this line of text. Now, how do I now choose? How do I determine what is going to be my body text, what's going to be my heading? I'm going to just show you some of the method I personally use. Now, there's this website called, it is called Type. It's called TypeSkills, typeskill.com. Now, what TypeSkill does is it helps you to, you can vary the some properties of your text. Now, it gives you a preview where you're seeing, let me switch it to PX, where you're seeing what your text looks like. Now, it has what we call a scale. Now, the scale basically has to do with the difference between sizes. So if I go to something like a golden ratio, the biggest size is going to be very big, and the smallest size is also going to be very small, right? So what I usually just use is a major third, right? A major third. Now, for the major third, my paragraph, my paragraph is 16. Now you have a small, and maybe you can use. Do you, if you're designing for web, you probably won't have a text that is going to be less than 12 or 10, minimum of 10, right? So most of your texts are just going to be a minimum of 12. So we can have bodies that are also as big as 20. Okay. Some bodies might be as big as 20. Yeah. So type scale helps you to create that. We are going to use type scale. We're going to create what we call a type style. We're going to create a style for our typography. Right. So so we see it has also has H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So those are our heading. So that means the font you're using for your body should be different from the one you're using for your heading. Now let's build it all up. I'm going to do this in, let's do this in a variable. What we're creating now is more of a mini design system. So I'm going to create a variable of number, and let's rename it to typography. So first we want to have our body text, body, and in our body we'll have small, and our small text would be, what do we have there? If we come back to type scale, we have our small text is 12. 12. Now, sometimes you might even just make it 14. So our, our medium is, or we can call it regular, but let's leave it as medium. Our medium is 16, and our large text would be 20. Then we are going to do the same thing for headings. So call this heading slash h1, or should we start from, okay, let's start from h6. Now, in this, if you look at type scale, you're going to be seeing some point. Now, how do we manage that? Now, what I do is I'm going to be rounding off to the nearest 4. So I'm using a scale of 4. So for instance, the HCC here is 20. 20 is divisible by 4. Now, what we have here is 25 for H5. Because H25 is not divisible by 4, so I would round it off to the nearest number that is divisible by 4, which will be 24. Right. So so that's basically what we're going to just be doing. This will be 32, this will be 40, this will be 48, and 61 divisible. Yeah, so no, not 61, it's 62 divisible. 62, I think 62. Let's see. 62 divided by
Sorry,
4.
Chike, I can't see what you are doing. Oh. Abi, is
Oh,
it?
no, all right. Can you see it? I'm
Okay.
just, yeah, 62 divided by 4. No, so let's do 60. 60 divided by 4. 15. Okay, cool. So this will be 60. Our H1 will be 60. I don't know if you understand if you understood what I just said. So I said, now, if you are following this major third, this scale of major third, for instance, when we get to H4, we have 31.25, but we don't want to have a text that is 31.25. So we um want our text to be whole numbers. So what we're going to be doing, even this that is 25, we're going to be rounding it off to a number that is divisible by 4, because I'm using a scale of 4, right? So we're using a number that is divisible by 4, or a multiple of 4, right? So 16 passes because 16 can be, 20 can be divided by 4. Now 25 can't be, so we're going to convert this 25 to 24, right? So let's do that. So we have 20 as our H6. We have H5 to be 24. We have H4 to be, what's H4? Hold on, let me just share my entire screen so that's okay. So what's H4? H4 is 31. So is 31 divisible by 4? No. So 32, right? I think 32 is it? 32 divided by 4, 8. Yeah. So H4 would be 32. H3 will be 40, which is divisible by 4. 40. Then H2 H2 is 48. So 48 is divisible by 4, 48.8. So we'll just round it up to 48. 48. And we'll have H1 would be 60, right? So that we have 61.04, but we're going to use 60. Now, what we're building here, oh, I don't want this to be inside. Okay, yeah, heading and body. So what we just built now is just the sizes. Now, our font has different things. We have the size, we have the font weight, um we have the font family, right, which is the typeface itself. We have the line height. Now let's build the line height. So line height is also a number. So we are doing body, the line height of the body slash line height slash. So we have small. So line height, we have small. So now do we calculate the line height? Now you can see our scale is 1.6. So that's what we have here, 1.6. Now you can easily just look at the um the preview and see if it actually works for your brand or your design. So 1.6, you can look at 1.5 or 1.4, 1.4, but let's just leave it as 1.6. Now, what does this mean? This means I'm going to pick this our text and multiply it by 1.6. So our line height for this small, remember our body small is 12. So the line height is going to be 12 times 1.6, right? So 19. So let's round it up to 20. We'll do the same thing for the medium and the large. So let's do 16 times 1.6. Oh, I think for body, let's use yeah. Okay, let's do it like that. 16 times 1.6. Like I said, you just have to still just look at it how it aligns to your brand. 1.6. So we have 25. What is the closest to 4? So we'll do 24. So large is 20 times 1.6. And you can see I'm doing the multiplication inside Figma. So once you have numbers, you can actually multiply them, and 32 goes. Okay, now we'll do the same line height for the headings. So heading slash line height. So from here we have H6 to H1. So H6, line height of H6 is going to be, now in this case, for the heading, we actually use different line heights. So use 1.5, or I usually just do 1.2, 1.15. But I usually just do 1.2. So I'm going to be just applying that here. So for my H6, I have 20. So 20, the line height for H6 will be 20 times 1.2. That's 24. Then we'll have H5. H5 is 24. 24 times 1.2, 28. So it's 28 divisible. Yes. Right. by 4. So 28. So H4 is 32. 32 times 1.2. 38 is 38 divisible. So we have 32, 36. So 36 is divisible by 4. Okay. Then we'll do the same thing, H5. Now, what we're just creating is this is just the process we use to create a design system, right? But I'm just trying to create a foundation for my style guide. Okay, so H5, and I'll show you what we're
H3.
doing. Oh, sorry, H3, H3, H3. Thank you. H3 is 40, 40 times 1.2, 48. That's divisible. Then H2, 48 times 1.2, 57. What's divisible in this case? 50. So we have 48, 52, 56, 56. So I'm going
It's
to rename this
H2.
H2. Then finally H1. And H1 is 60 times 1.2. 72 is 72 divisible. So 60, 64, 68, 72. Yeah, divisible. Okay, now let's just look at what it looks like in our design. So I have all of that. I can say, okay, my size should be, so if you come down, you'll see the variable we just created. So let's do body small. Okay, let me just do for body small first. And selecting body small, I'm coming back to my line height and say line height, body line height small. And now where do you even get to see line height? So let's assume this text, I think we have it. We had a text that was yeah, this text. Oh, did I cut it? Okay, let's create a text box again. So we'll see where all this comes in. 50 words poetry. Okay, so let's apply it to this body of text. So select our variable and we're going to body small, and here we are assigning the line body line height small. Okay, so let's do that for, this is small, medium, and large body. Now note all of these are body text, right? So medium, we'll do the same thing. Select a variable and assign body medium. And here we would assign it the line height of medium. So you can see where the difference is coming now. Then here we would select body large. I can see it's less readable. Then we have to select the line height of large. Okay. And that's for body. Now, one thing we've not touched is the font weight, right? Because we might have this variation of font that is actually bold, right? So let's go back to our variable. We can actually still create that inside the variable, or we just, so we can also just create a string and call it body slash font weight, and where is it? So font weight slash small. So font weight will have regular, it has to correspond with, or let's just be, let's, you can name it regular, and we'll have semi bold, and this would be semi bold. I don't know if it is, if it is a whole word. Then we'll have bold. I will just call this bold. Okay. Now let's even put this font weight as a heading on its own. Okay. Now that means all of these texts can have their own variation. So I can add all of them to a variable of semi-bold and also bold. Okay, so the same thing. Now, before we go ahead, let's just turn them into style. So now, what does style mean? What we've created are variables, and I'll show you where those variable applies. Now, what does style now mean? Style means I want to save it as a style. So once I come to, you can do the same thing for this font family if you are using more than one font family, but here we're just using Montserrat. So I'll just come to this typography and apply styles. So I'm going to create a new style and call it body slash small, and do this same thing here. New style, body slash medium, and body create style, body slash large. Now what you notice, they are all body, right? So I'll do the same thing here. New style, body slash small, medium, or here we cannot have medium to be 600 or 500, small 500, depending on whatever you name it. Then we'll have the second one to be body slash medium 500. Then we'll have the last one to be body slash large 500. Then this is our bold, and we would have body slash small, whatever you want to call it. So you can call it bold, but since we've started using 500, this will be around our bold will be around 700. do the same thing. Body slash medium 700. Body slash large 700. Now I just want to arrange all of them. So I want small 500, small 700, medium 500, medium 700. Okay. So now what that means is if I have a design, say I have let's just have this design and I'm trying to create a text that says welcome. Oops. Okay, welcome to an awesome experience of technology. Now I can simply just choose, okay, I want this to be medium and a regular text, right? So I can easily just switch in between all those style we've created, right? Medium 500, medium 700, small, and the likes, right? So we'll do the same thing for our heading. So we'll just use this for the heading. Let's bring it down here. So we've already done the hard work. So I'm just going to be switching these fonts to heading. Let's start from H6. H6, the line height will be heading line height. So we're looking for heading line height H6. So we'll apply it, duplicate, do the same thing, H5, line height, H5, do the same thing, H4, line height, H4, another duplicate, H3. Oh, I've not applied the line height. H3, line height, H3, H2, line height, H2, then finally H1, line height, H1. So we would also create duplicates of this for our bold. So all of this will just add, we'll just switch the font weight to apply variable. I'm just going to call it semi bold, and we'll do the same thing here, and we'll switch semi bold to bold. Okay, so we'll just save it accordingly also. So this will be H1. So I'm going to come to my typography again, new style now. So this time we're calling it heading slash H1. This is heading slash h2 heading slash h3 heading slash h4 and oh sorry, it's six downwards. So we've that's a mistake from our part. Actually, this is so I'm going to edit this to h6, h5, h4, h3. So this is heading slash h2 and finally heading slash h1. Now you might be wondering why didn't we just change all of them here. And now, like I said, this is usually done when you are creating something like a design system. Right. So I'm just going to do for this medium and we'll take it up from there. Okay. So heading slash h1 500. I think that's what we used. No, sorry, not h1 this time around. h6 500. Heading slash h5 500. Now, the beautiful thing of this is just once you do this, you don't need to do it again. Even if your font, you are changing your scale, you are just going to go and adjust the variable. You are not going to touch anything that has to do with the font. Heading slash h what am I? h5, h4. Now there are still when you are creating a design system, there are still a lot that goes in, but this is just maybe 7% of the part that has to do with text. Heading slash h3 500. Heading slash h2 heading slash h2 500 and heading slash h1 500. Okay, now let's assume we just have a frame and in this frame let's have two frames. Now I won't tell you why we did that, go that route, when we went that route. So in our variables, if we are peradventure we are creating what you call a mode, right? Now in our mode, let's call this desktop. Let's call this, 。 mobile. Now, some things can change in your mobile and on your desktop, right? Some things can change. For instance, um, I want my body text on my desktop. The medium should be 20. Then the large should be 24, and the small would be it will be 24, and the small would be 16. Right? That's just an increment of 4. Now, let's assume we have this desktop here. We are going to apply the sorry, yeah. So, let's see. Let's see where they've put that in now. Okay. So let's create a simple button. Let me remove this. Let's use a simple auto layout to create. Click me. And this click me is going to be our body medium. So I'm going to just add an auto layout to it. Okay, and let's get a blue color. Okay, why are you not moving? So we're giving it a blue fill. For some reason it's not responding. Let me see. Don't know why it's lagging. Okay, let's go. Let's just use this red and let's turn this to white. Now, on the properties, let me see. Okay, so let me see to assign. Okay, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So I want to apply variable to it. So I'm applying the variable of mobile to it, right? I'm applying a variable of mobile to this frame. I'm applying variable of mobile to that frame. Okay. Now let's assume we now have a desktop frame, and this is our desktop frame. I'm just showing you why we're doing that. We went that route. Now I'm applying the variable of desktop to this. I'm applying a variable of desktop. Now, just look at how now watch this. Let me zoom in. Now, by the time this button is crossing to the mobile, automatically it's just going to change the size and say, right. So simply just by because of that variable we've assigned to it. So that's why we went that route of using variables. But ideally, just you can actually just create your style guide from what we have here. You don't really need to go into that variable. But the variable helps you to create a more defined style, right? Or maybe when you're doing like a design system, it also comes in very handy. Now let's use everything we've done so far into a simple blog post. Okay. Now this is going to be our blog post. Now is the post itself. Say you've already got into the blog, selected the one you want to read. Now, first in blogs, you have a header, right? Let's just create a simple menu. So let's say this is going to be our logo, and we're going to scale this. So let's do 12 colon grid, margin of 124, and got of 20. That works. Okay, so this is our logo. I will have menu, say home. Now we can give this our home a 500. Right, okay. Home. Okay. So say about services, contacts. Now we're just going to create this without much consideration to the or to the typography yet. All right. So let's say we're going to have the image of the blog post that will cover this side. Then we'll have the title of the blog. This this is the so let's see if we can let's use this blog post title. Okay, then we also have the summary, what we call excerpt. Here it is. Okay, blog post summary 20 words. Okay. Then we'll have the date and time of the post. So we'll have it like let's say June 7th, 2025 and 6:15 p.m. Okay, and we'll have the author. Now have the author James. Okay. Then we'll have a tag that just calls him author. Then finally, we'll have the blog post itself. Let's say the blog post will span this part of the page. So let's rewrite blog posts on exploring the world. 300 words. Okay, I think we need more than that. So I'm just going to copy this and paste again. All right, so this is all we have. I think I'll just replace this picture with content reel. Okay, let's use a map. Okay, now we'll now start coming to our text. Okay, I needed image here, but let's go. Oops, something has happened to our let's copy it again. Our summary. So we're just going to trying to put together everything we've touched today. So bring this down, bring this down. Okay, cool. Now, first thing is hierarchy. What is important? Now, we definitely know that the heading is important, right? Now we now start determining what is going to be our heading. So let's look at an H2. Now you can see H2 actually works. However, it is light, and because of one of the principles of typography, which is which is hierarchy. We need to show that there is enough hierarchy. So we are using H2 500. I wish we did 700. We could have even used 700. But H2 500, that works. Now, this is just a summary. That means the importance of this summary is not as much as this header, even not as much as this body. Now, in terms of hierarchy, I also need to convey that. Now, the way you create that, so we can just simply reduce the body text to say a small or a medium, right? Let's use medium. And another thing that helps with hierarchy is also the color. Now, we didn't touch color. However, you can also work on the color. Now, we are not looking at the color anyway. Now, another thing we've seen here is the alignment. Now, alignment, this could be aligned center this way. Now, we are already seeing that it's going off. So we keep our alignment aligned left, and yeah, there's something we didn't work on in our text, in our heading. We didn't work on the line height. Did we? Okay, I think we did. Okay, we did. Control Z. Okay, now going back here. Now, how important is the date? That's also hierarchy. How important is the date in everything? So our date is not as important as the body. So our date can be if it is more important than the summary, then it can be a mid and a bold, right? So the same thing applies to so our author, maybe if the, depending on your brand, if the author is also important, it can be a mid 700, and the term author itself definitely not as important, so we'll make it a small text, and even maybe still reduce the opacity, the color, right? Now, in terms of alignment within the container, now look at all of these things as a container. All your elements has to align. So one way you can align it is with auto layout, right? 20. So select two of these more related, put it in an auto layout. Let's give it 12. Oops, 12. Now, if you are creating a design system, normally you would also have your scale. So your scale will determine how you're actually spacing all of these things. Is it you're using a scale of 4 or a scale of 8 or a scale of 10, 5? So all those will determine. So I can jam all of this into an auto layout. In this case, I'm using a multiple of 4, which I've been using since. So Shift A. So this space is going to be about 48. Okay. So now we are done with the heading part. Now the body, if there is an H, what H did we use here? This is H2. If there is another heading inside the body text, it's not supposed to be an H2 again, because this is the most important. And for hierarchy sake, this has to remain as as the most important. Right. So if we are going to be having, say we have a subheading inside the body, if you are using this subheading actually has to have a reduced so we can make it a H4, right? H4 500, and our body will make our body mid regular text, and basically that's how we use typography in design. Let's make this 24 and all of this shift A. Sixty 62. All right. So from what we've done, when we try to preview our design, we are going to see it's going to show hierarchy. It's going to show contrast. Oh, sorry. We're going to use a prototype. Let's just do no device. And we're going to scale this. Okay. So just by looking at it, our eyes can basically see what is important. What do you want to see first? Now, note, we didn't actually design this. We're just looking at the type. So coming here, you're already saying explore the wonders of nature. First thing you see, right? Then your eye is controlled. You can see the dates, you can see the author. This is the summary, less pronounced. Then you read whatever you want to read. And basically that's how you use typography. Do you have any question? Any questions so far? Okay. Now, just still looking at hierarchy. Now let's assume this this is like a heading of classification, and there are different classifications under it. And let's break this down into a smaller bit. You would okay cut this off. Okay. Now let's assume there are smaller bits that are also subheading of this original one. Definitely, you're also thinking about hierarchy, and I'm going to make this a H6, right? Just to show that this is not as important as that. And this is basically how hierarchy works. And now, in terms of consistency, because I'm still listing the same thing, I would not want, because I'm actually still listing a subtopic of it. I want this to now be H5, right? So that is where consistency comes in. So anything you've started using, basically before you actually start, you've defined your brand and everything like that. So anything you've started using, you are going to ensure that you are consistent in it. So by the time I'm coming to this part of the of the um, of the post, and I'm seeing a new H, what is this? H5. My mind already groups it into another set of heading, right? I know that okay, it is not together with all of this. So basically, that's how that's how to apply these principles. The principle of hierarchy, consistency, white space. Now, white space has to do with all these spaces you are saying. They actually help you to be able to read this text if they are let's assume, let's just do this part this way. Let's do a okay. Now let's see the difference. Now you can see the difference between this and this part. You are going to have an headache by the time you're going to have a headache by the time you get to this part, right? Because of the space, the spacing of the design. Now, um, they will also have the alignment. So alignment also guides your eye. So you can see how everything is quite aligned. Helps you to helps your eye to stay in one place. So if things are moving around, there is even a word. There's a word for it. I've forgotten. For when you have something like this aligned center. So these edges, your eye is traveling this route. Let me use a pencil here. So your eye is traveling like this. Mind drawing. Let's make this black. So okay, let's do this now. So your eye is going like this to this place, to this place, come back here, come back to this place, go here. So it actually causes strain to the eye. Your eye is trying to track what is the next line, where what line am I currently reading? How do I go to the next line? So your eye is moving. And the funny thing about all of this is you are not consciously doing it. And you are not consciously telling your mind that this is stressing me. Just by looking at bad typography, your mind is already stressed and it's already telling you something is wrong. Leave this page, and your user just drops. So it is very important to know we are how this typography is actually being used in terms of in application to what we are trying to build, right? So do you have any questions so far? Any questions? Right. I believe it was a very productive session, and we'll pick it up from here. Probably now addressing colors and completing the whole design system. How color actually plays a key role in also typography, because the color of your font has to do with the contrast of the font. Contrast means how readable is it? What's the difference between the background and the text itself? There are some tools that I use to check for contrast, color contrast, right? So color is also something that can pass the message of hierarchy, right? If you have this text and this text is blue, and we have just by looking at this, we are already seeing, and we have three of it, and two of it are blue, and one is black. Or rather, two of it are black and one is blue. It also just shows that one is more important. So basically, color also passes the message of hierarchy. So color is also a very important factor of typography. Yeah, so in the absence of any question, we're going to pick it up from here. And I hope you got value. I hope it was a nice time with you. Do you have any question? You can always drop it in the chat box. All right. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I will see you next weekend. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you, Chike.